About our guest, Mike Mutzel, in the house.
Hey, buddy. Man, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Excited that you're here. You're a master of research around a lot of these things and nutrition, health, and wellness, but specifically fasting and longevity recently, and just how to optimize our overall health through fasting and living longer. And it seems like everyone wants to know about fasting these days. And I saw a video of yours recently that said some research might suggest that fasting at the night could be better than fasting for breakfast, where everyone talks about just skip breakfast and go into lunch and do the 16-hour window of fasting, the 8-hour feeding window, the intermittent fasting. But I saw a video that said skip dinner, not breakfast. Is that true?
Yeah.
So how is fasting at night better than in the morning?
Well, I mean, this is phenomenal, and it has to do with the circadian clock system. So have you talked about this on the show before?
Not too much.
Like how our body resonates with nature and the environment. And so we have these intracellular clocks that regulate gene expression and metabolism. And to me, it's just super fascinating. And it turns out that humans didn't evolve eating at night, because that's when apex predators, like back in the day, grizzly bears and cougars and cats and things that would hunt us would be out hunting.
At night.
So we'd want to be cooped up in our safety, so we would eat when the sun's out and fast at night. Now, the only caveat to this rule is in Latin America,
they eat at midnight. It's right. Like you start your appetizer at midnight, right?
So it's tough, because that can be eating, I think there's all these cogs in the wheels of health, and socialization and connection is a major cog. So that's sort of the caveat when recommending this. So if you tell people, okay, start eating at 8 a.m., and as the study that we'll talk about showed, they cut off the feeding window at 2 or 4, that becomes socially impractical, right?
So they stop eating at 4 o'clock.
Correct.
And you fast all night.
Till 8 in the morning. Wow. But they noticed a lot of improvements in not changing any of the diet. The control group ate the same amount of calories, but they started eating at 8 in the morning and stopped at 8 p.m. But they didn't achieve all these longevity benefits. We'll talk more about autophagy, which is this process where your intracellular components of your cells are recycled. It's linked with various disease reductions, for example, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, cancer, autoimmunity. So this is a favorable process that we should strive to increase. And the group that cut off their feeding window at between 2 and 4 had a dramatic increase in autophagy, and all these longevity biomarkers were increased. So it makes more sense just practically, if you can do it most days. If you're going to socialize on the weekends, maybe you eat a little bit later on the weekends, with your buddies, your girlfriend, your friends, all of that. But during the week, if you can make it a habit to eat earlier and start your fast earlier, that's the important thing.
So wait a minute. For those that do intermittent fasting where they skip breakfast, but maybe they eat until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? They still do an 8-hour feeding window, but they finish at 8 or 10. Versus those that eat breakfast and skip dinner. Which group overall would extend their longevity markers?
Probably the latter group, the group that ate breakfast and skipped dinner.
Really?
That's what multiple studies are showing, because it turns out that these longevity-related processes, like we mentioned autophagy, we can talk about mTOR and these different pathways that are signals that signal and enhance the processes that make us live longer and prevent disease initiation. Those increase and are kind of part of our circadian clock system. So the timing of your meals and your fasting really do matter. Now, let me just pause here, because if someone is getting good results, let's say someone listening is like, hold on, this guy's telling me to now eat breakfast and I've lost all this weight. Please don't change what you're doing. For the people that haven't gotten the benefits that they expect with these intermittent fasting protocols, and this is common in the fitness industry too, to do the opposite of what you've been doing. Change it up a little bit. And this happens, sometimes the guru on YouTube or Instagram or whatever does something this way, and we all want to do it exactly like the guru, but we are different than the person, than the guru. So do what works for you in your schedule, but there's a mantra. I come from, I know you have a competitive athletic background. I did competitive cycling. And the mantra there, because...
Wait, is cycling competitive? So it's very competitive, actually.
Yeah, and it's all based on power to weight ratio, right?
Wow.
So the lighter you are and the stronger you are, there's literally a metric, the power that you put out, watts per kilogram, will determine who wins Grand Tours, Tour de France. Anyway, so the mantra was eat early, sleep early. So
eat early, sleep early.
That was it. That was
for cycling. If you wanted to build more power, more endurance,
be shredded, be lean, so that you're not carrying extra weight on the bike. So that means starting your fast earlier in the day. So You would go train in the morning, go train hard, eat, fuel, have pasta, carbs, all of that, but you basically didn't have dinner. You had like a big lunch early, and that was it.
When did you usually stop eating?
Well, back then I didn't know much about it. This was like early 2000s, but this was like, Lance Armstrong and even older, generations this was like tacitly implied in the culture
Really?
of those sports is you want to like get a fast going because that will keep you lean.
It'll burn the fat. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, this whole intermittent fasting phenomenon has really blown up in the last 3 to 4 years. And there's apps for it, and there's millions of people that are in communities around this. But what the research is saying is that is it to burn more fat, to live longer, potentially? The research is saying just skip dinner now, not skip breakfast. Simple as that.
Simple as that, or have an earlier dinner.
Earlier dinner, like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Totally reasonable with the family.
Yeah.
I have a young daughter, 9 years old, and she's super hungry after school. So instead of like saying, no, honey, we're going to go play and do all this stuff, and then we're going to eat later, I just give her the food then. So then she's not even that hungry for dinner. It's not like I'm trying to get her to lose weight necessarily. I just want her to get into the habit because the most important thing, for people listening right now, sleep is arguably, and I know you've talked a lot about sleep. Yeah. It's key. When we eat a big dinner, let's say you're doing the intermittent fasting thing, you fast till 2 p.m., start having all this food, your sleep is not as good if you cut off your feeding window at 10 p.m. You're digesting the meat that you had or the olives or whatever, healthy foods, and you're not getting a good night's sleep. So then this sets up this vicious cycle. When you're not sleeping good, then all your appetite regulatory hormones, leptin, ghrelin, insulin, are all skewed. And then you want to eat and consume ultra-processed packaged crap because your sleep was messed up. So, and our sleep naturally kind of gets a little wonky as we age. People have sleep disorder breathing. We should be breathing through our nose when we're sleeping, not our mouth. A lot of people, we gain weight, around the neck and so forth, and that causes us to breathe through our mouth, which leads to all these changes we can talk about later. But anyway, so the point is, the way to remedy all of this, at least make a big dent in this, is to eat earlier.
Man, is there any negative side effects to fasting?
Well, that's a great question. You can overdo anything. You can drink too much water, so that fasting can easily get you into a calorie deficit. And so, especially for women that come from a history of like disordered eating, anorexia, bulimia, if people are really lean, like, for example, if you're 8% body fat, fasting for 18, 20, probably not good because you're going to start to tear away muscle. Gotcha. Now, fasting is unique, and the rise, and if we talk about sort of the recipe, if we just back up a little bit in the physiology for people, one of the benefits of fasting comes through you're dropping your blood glucose levels, and that leads to a reduction in insulin, and that increases a related hormone to insulin called glucagon. So that signals your fat cells to start releasing stored energy.
What does that mean? Burning the fat?
Essentially burning fat, right? So that energy that's being released can go to your brain to help you think and make thoughts, and it can go to your liver to create energy and so forth. And that helps with fat loss, which is great. But it also helps with all these processes of longevity that we've been sort of talking about.
Sure, okay.